Hello, and welcome to a very belated Christmas vlog. It's actually a work trip vlog because I have to travel, and that means I have to pick out a book to read. I think I'm going with Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Partly because it's short and I can finish it on the plane, and partly because I like Marquez and I want to read more by him. In the very first sentence, we find out that Santiago Nassar is going to be killed. The story is narrated by one of his friends who investigates the murder many years later. This book is actually based on a real story, based on somebody that Marquez knew. Knowing Marquez, I don't think that this is going to be a dry journalistic account, but rather something lush and spicy. I'll put a timestamp in case you want to skip the work trip vlog and get to the book review. So here's the verdict. This is a great little book. I read the entire thing on the plane and I don't remember being bored even once. It's really fast-paced, and even though the narrative jumps around from the morning of the murder to various events in the past and future, it's really easy to follow along. So, as you might expect, because it's fragmented, it's not really a chronicle in the normal sense. It doesn't follow events chronologically. Being fragmented, there's a risk of it being kind of disorganized, but I didn't find that to be the case here at all. Unlike Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, this doesn't have magical realism in it, but it has this element of extreme improbability that pushes it in that direction. Basically, everybody in town knew that Santiago was going to be murdered, but nobody manages to warn him until it's too late. Even the people who care about him a lot, for some intervening reason, either are prevented from telling him or decide against telling him. These circumstances are individually plausible, but when put together seem ridiculously coincidental to the point where it almost feels like the entire town enabled the murder. And that is the part of this book that Marquez himself found most interesting, not the crime itself, but the literary theme of collective responsibility. But to me, even the crime itself is really interesting because it has a mystery. The book is super short, so I don't want to spoil anything by going into detail, but the heart of the mystery is basically this. Did Santiago bring about his own death, or was it a case of mistaken identity? There's a wonderful passage in the story where the narrator is looking through old court records and he finds a legal brief about the murder. The magistrate who wrote it is described as a man burning with the fever of literature. So this legal brief, a formal court document, is filled with drawings of hearts, cryptic phrases in the margins, and overwhelming lyricism. So you can kind of tell the mood of the story, where it's very atmospheric, but it also kind of pokes fun at itself. Anyway, the magister himself was totally at a loss about the mystery at the heart of the work, namely who the real perpetrator was. And I tried to solve it. I had an Excel spreadsheet with names and dates and various facts about the characters, and I could not figure it out. Maybe there's an answer here, and I was just too distracted by Marquez's lyricism to find it. Maybe one day a literary critic will finally figure out who the perpetrator was. And I mean, I certainly hope so because I still want to know. So to sum up, I really enjoyed this. If you're looking for a short, engaging read that's a little bit bloody, a little bit spicy, definitely check this out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.